I did an interview with Forloke and he spoke on that. I think he was saying, basically the age comes before anything. And then you had some thoughts on Forloke's interview.
Well, yeah, correct. So, what I had to say about it wasn't so much as directed as Forloke. I was just using Forloke as an example because I do agree that what Forloke was saying is that the age does come before everything. But what my stance is that he didn't completely understand the situation in its entirety and the war that had been going on and the internal conflict that was going on here. And so basically, like, his comment kind of invalidated, what was actually taking place, which I understand it, like, don't be petty with all Hoovers, drop all of the foolishness and come together as one. But to me, like, that would be an impossible task until some things got better addressed. And so also I spoke to the thing that when Forloke came out and said that none of the other Hoover content creators spoke up to say anything about it as fast as they were able to run to the internet when Gumby was making whatever statements that Gumby made, which eventually everybody tried to pin it as if Gumby was creating and starting a problem, which he didn't. That's false. That was a false narrative. But all I was just saying is that if people were so fast to speak on what Gumby had to say, why is it that nobody is making a response to what Forloke had to say? Because everybody had an opinion at that point in time.
Yeah, that's true. So in your opinion, what would need to change for everybody to come together?
Well, first, it's accountability. So first, people have to acknowledge that the ways that they were taught were incorrect. And then they have to hold the people that taught them the incorrect things accountable instead of being mad at the Hoovers from California for speaking up on it, because as an off branch, being in any other part outside of Los Angeles, you're off branch of that community. So, the people from that community have every right to feel how they feel. If like I told some other content creators before, I said, man, if it ain't blue magic, don't call it blue magic, like off the movie American Gangster, because you can't take somebody else's shit and pervert it in a way. Now, I do believe that you could put your own spin on it based on your geographical location, because you might have a different swag where you live as far as how you dress. You might have different turf boundaries. You might have different enemies. All those things might be different, and you can move accordingly. But I can't see that you completely changing the name of somebody's thing and feeling like that was okay. And then when the people who originated this speak on it, then now everybody has a problem with that person, as if they want to go to war behind having the correct information. And so to answer your question, to me, I think the ultimate solution would be like, because Forloke was like, well, we should accept the HCGs because they Hoovers. And that's cool. But I think that my personal opinion is that if we accept them, then they should just be Hoover Crip Gang and drop the 5 deuce, because if you're not going to be because there's a history to reason why 5 deuce is Hoover Gangsta Crips. And there was wars fought internally in California behind that whole name. So to me, if y'all don't want to be Hoover Gangsta Crip, y'all just want to be Hoover Crip Gang, then drop the 5 deuce.
The Big Deal took shots at Gumby. What are your thoughts on that?
So my original thoughts whenever Big Deal came out with the shots at Hoover Gumby was that, I felt like it was a clout chase, because Gumby is, especially at that time, Gumby was one of the most trending topics on YouTube or on the internet content space, period, because there had been a big back and forth between what they say is Texas Hoovers versus LA Hoovers, which it wasn't really a Texas Hoovers thing in entirety. It was more so Fort Worth Hoovers that had a different program than LA Hoovers. So when Big Deal came out and made the comment, like, Gumby, you're not a spokesperson for 5 dudes, but everything you're saying is correct, I felt like that was offensive and divisive, because granted that he might be correct that since Gumby's from 9 Deuce, he shouldn't be speaking for 5 Deuce. like it's something that Hoovers all say is if you from Hoover, then you can speak on all Hoover business, regardless of what the number is in front of it. So yeah, and I felt like a lot of people from California at that time start speaking out and making statements when they really didn't have all the background information on what was really going on down here in Texas and why this was such a big thing that was going on.
What was going on in Texas?
Well, I mean, for the better part of the last at least 15, 20 years, there's been like an internal conflict in Texas between two Hoover factions. Houston specifically isn't represented by many other Hoover sets. It's just mostly 5 Deuce here. And what happens is we have 5 Deuce Hoover Gangsta Crips here, and we have a small amount of 5 Deuce Hoover Crip gang members as it pertains to the Houston area. Now, other parts of Texas as a whole, there might be, Hoover Crip gang members scattered everywhere, but their stronghold is like mainly Fort Worth, Texas, or the Texas prison system. And what happens is that when a lot of 5 Deuce Hoover Gangsta Crips were going to TDC, which is the prison system here in Texas, they were getting jumped and removed from the yards, or however y'all call it, like the yards, or getting, what we call it, like getting flushed off the unit because they were Hoover Gangsta Crip. And the Hoover Crip gang members were trying to say that that was fake and that there was no such thing as Hoover Gangsta Crips.
Damn.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And so, so when it hit the internet, it was a main thing is because it's like, how are y'all going to say the people that actually had the correct thing that was representing it authentically was something that was fake? But when Gumby came to the internet, or other members from Hoover, or even in Los Angeles period, said, no, we never heard of 5 Deuce Hoover Crip gang, now all of a sudden it became a really big problem.
Alshawn Martin sends a PSA to all the Hoovers and neighborhood Crips in LA. Let's stop the BS.
Me personally, like, just knowing from what I know from the inside, which I'm not really at liberty to go into detail about, I felt like all of that was still part of, like, I felt like it was 2 things. I felt like it was clout chasing, and I also felt like it was some type of humiliation ritual type of thing that they were trying to do to Gumby. I think that the whole purpose of that was to try to discredit Gumby. I see a lot of that going on in this content space, that like people want to, discredit him and humiliate him in order to like bring more credibility and visibility to themselves. So with the thing with Alshawn Martin was like basically that, like if he said that, because in Texas, Hoovers and 6-0s don't necessarily beef. Like if there's some type of friction, it's just because you don't like that particular individual and he happens to represent either one of those sets. But as far as just like a collective effort, it ain't no beef like that. And that's probably primarily due to like the explosion of how many Bloods, like it's like the Bloods gained the numbers overnight here to where I guess the Crips kind of had to be forced to stick together because of the common enemy is the Bloods were so deep. But yeah, in regards to Alshawn, like I just really felt like that was bad for business. I felt like, that some members of the set were compromised, especially because Whack 100 was the vessel to transfer that message. I was just kind of like wondering, like, damn, well, how much were you paid to go against your own? Especially with Folok being there, and the message that Folok was pushing, like, hey, let's not put all our business out, and like all of this kind of stuff like that. And he told me, like, I know what he spoke to me about, like, hey, the homies shouldn't be dissing the homies or whatever. And then, like, they go on like a couple days later, they go on a major platform, and you have this shit explode with another situation of the homies coming at Gumby. It's like all of these people, and especially from Hoovers, you got 5, 6 different people from Hoover all coming at one person, which is Gumby, and like saying, like, just painting a narrative about Gumby, but nobody is saying nothing about all the other people that are bringing Hoover politics to the internet or doing flawed shit. You know what I'm saying? And so Alshawn also called in to when Folok was back on Fig, and he was saying like, hey, I wouldn't have pressed Gumby, or I wouldn't have did that shit if I knew he was with you. And to me, like, that ain't no respectable shit. because I personally feel like if you got a problem with, especially if you cool with the person, this person you got an issue with, you cool with the person that they with at that moment, that shouldn't stop you from pressing them, especially if you standing in truth or you speaking in truth. You know what I'm saying? If you got something on your mind to say, you should say it. You don't give a fuck. Excuse my language. You shouldn't care who a person is around if you got something on your, got something on your chest that you want to get off.
Facts.
Yeah, I thought that was a very bad look. I felt like that was not honorable.
What are your thoughts on Monster Kody?
So the thing about the stuff with Monster Kody, like, I know, like, Monster Kody is kind of like one of those figures that are up there with, like, Tookie and Raymond Washington. His influence on people, whether blood or crip, you know what I'm saying, is big. A lot of, I mean, it's even said that the Bloods from New York was started based off of a person reading Monster Kody's book. You know what I mean? But also, I don't feel like anybody is above critique if it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? So, like, knowing that two individuals were having a back and forth that are, they're sworn enemies, when, you can't really tell a person how low that they can go whenever there's a type of battle. Like, you would think that people would respect the dead, but we live in a culture where, you get more clout off disrespecting the dead. So, I just think that whatever he did or however he chose to live his life, I personally, I probably wouldn't have, disrespected him like that. But if I was asked about it, I would speak my truth. And, it's the other side of the coin with that is that Monster Kody and his book is what brought all of this stuff about Hoovers and, Fat Rat or whatever the things they had going on inside the prison system at that time, which gave the Hoovers a very, very bad rep for a long time. And Hoovers still haven't got past or been able to shake. It was because of, Monster Kody's truth that he spoke about in his book. So now that these allegations are coming out about him, it's hard for me to really feel that type of empathy for that situation in that community because it had already been done to ours.
Damion Porter. So recently he did a video, Truth Exposed, the Hoovers took over Louisiana and Texas. Do you ever watch him?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I do. I still do, yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
Honestly, I was rocking with Cuz content, like, for whatever it was. Like, I just didn't watch it dedicated, but I was a supporter just because he was a homie. And the stories that he tell, I saw the potential, you know what I'm saying? Even though I felt like, that niche was kind of oversaturated by other content creators that were, had more visibility. He just kind of lost me whenever all the Hoover conflict came out about, and the way that I felt like he chose sides instead of being neutral because we're all part of the same community. It was like some of his takes I just totally didn't agree with, you know what I'm saying? Which everybody's not going to agree with the same things, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like a lot more people should get more information before they speak, especially like when it comes to regards to what goes on in Texas or Louisiana, because for the most part, most people in California have no idea what's going on here. And so when they say that Hoovers took over Texas and stuff like that, that's true to a huge extent because I think Hoovers are probably the most represented set in Texas and Louisiana from my experience, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to run into more people that claim that they're a Hoover than any other thing. The chances are, the probability, so, but the way that it took over is the controversial part because you have so many members here, especially I'm speaking for Houston, and I'm sure this is to be true in other places as well, is that people would say that they had individuals come from California and put them on. And although these individuals could never be named, never be saw, there was just like a mysterious person, like, but this is what people would go by just to get validation on their set. Nobody actually wanted to say that the people that put them on came from Houston or were from Houston or, was Houston bred. Everybody like wanted to have a one-up to be like, oh, yeah, I'm more like connected than you because my big homie came from LA or whatever, so on and so forth. Which 9 times out of 10, that wasn't true as well. You know what I'm saying? But it like so a person could come to Houston and be like, "Hey, I'm from Cali." It don't even matter what part, because these people don't even they at a certain point in time they never even understood what actually goes on in California. So a person could be damn near from like San Diego or something to be like, "Hey, I'm from Cali. I'm a Hoover." Woo woo woo. And now everybody's gonna want to flock up under this person and get close to this person and use that person for validation. And you know what I'm saying? So it'd be like a popularity game, and then so now that person could push whatever agenda they want.
Trilla Too Legit had a lot to say.
Right. So Trilla Too Legit is like a upcoming person in the content space. He's from Houston, Texas, which I actually know Trilla from a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went to alternative school together. And by me knowing Trilla, I understand why he came to the internet with this type of personality and basically what's going on is Trilla saying like, hey, these Bloods and Crips in Houston or in Texas period aren't real, because he feels as though everybody is just followers, because if you're not embracing the California way and adapting to their customs and their enemies and things like that, then you can't really say that you're legitimately real, or and which in some ways, a lot of ways he's correct. In a lot of ways, it's way more original if the people here in Texas would just say, "Hey, I'm from this street or this block, and I'm put Crip on it, and they're affiliated with Crip or Blood or whatever it might be." But there are a lot of people that are really pissed with Trilla about his thoughts. But I think that sometimes people just got to be more open-minded to the message as and don't be insecure, because I think what the biggest problem is with all of this shit is, whether it's the HCG, the HGC, or whatever the case may be, people are feeling insecure. And nobody is saying that you're a whole ass nigga or you weak or anything like that, or you're a fake as an individual. But if you're not doing something the way that it's intended to be, you could be as real as you want to be, but you're still pushing a flawed script.
Yeah. Hoovers in Texas, who do y'all beef with?
Primarily the Bloods and each other, just to be honest.
Each other?
It sounds crazy, but this the truth. Like, like I said, on one hand, you got the conflict, HGC, HCG, that's a conflict, that's Hoover on Hoover. And there's different. So, like I said, like, you got so many, because Houston is so spread out from side to town. So there's not really no real ways of validating who is who when it comes down to the set, because different people know different people on different sides of town. And some people might be popular on this side of town, but on that side of town, nobody knows them. Right? And so like around 2007, 2008, around that area, for shit show strong, in around 2010, the clique era took over, where you could, you'd have Bloods, 6-0s, Power Rules, Hoovers, all of that in the same clique, because they're from the same area on the same side of town. And basically, they would beef with other cliques from different other sides of towns that consisted of the same members. So that's another conflict in itself. And then also, you have full out 5 Deuce niggas getting into it with other 5 Deuce niggas just because of whatever OG that these people fall up under. There's like an internal conflict. And all of that to me is about validation, because there's been different people since like 2015. There's been like different people came from California that have started like they little circles here. And, now everybody's clinging. Instead of looking at it like any big homie from Hoover is your big homie, they're more set on, oh, I just got this one big homie, and that's the only person I listen to or follow. And if you ain't riding with this shit, then you against us.
What would be your message to the kids?
My message to the kids is definitely like, be aware of the company that you keep, and that you don't have to be validated by anybody else outside of yourself. Be true to yourself. Like, at the end of the day, You can't lie to yourself, so don't try it. If you're lying to yourself, it's delusional, and you don't want to live in a state of delusion. So, yeah, each one teach one, you know what I'm saying? And it's okay to love, it's okay to trust, and it's okay to build with others. Everything doesn't have to just be about you. It's unity in the community, man.
Facts. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.